Look at the first example. First thing we need to do is identify what type of a conic section this is. If you look, you'll see that there is a y squared, but there's not an x squared. So that makes this a parabola. All right, the graphing form that we have been working with for a parabola is the y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. So now what I want to do is get this function into that form. First thing I want to do is get all the y's on the left, so I'm going to add the 2x to the right and subtract the 6 to the right. So I've got y squared minus 4y is equal to 2x minus 6. Alright, so now in order to make it look like that on the left, that is a perfect square, we are going to need to bring back something we haven't done for a while, and that is complete the square. So that's where we put the box on the left and the box on the right and balance it out. So let's go ahead and try this. On the left, I am going to rewrite this, but after my 4y, I am going to add in a box. If I add that to the left, then I also have to be fair and add it to the right. The way that I fill this in, remember we take the b term, which is negative 4 here, and we take half of it, or divide it by 2, and then we square it. So half of negative 4 is negative 2, and then we square it. So negative 2 squared is 4. You could have just put 4 in both of those boxes. On the left, I've got y minus 2, all of it squared, is equal to 2x, combine like terms over here, minus 2. Now, to really make it look like my parabola form, my graphing form, I want to factor out this 2 on the left. So 2x minus 1. Remember, here's my general graphing form, and this is what helps me identify my vertex. So my vertex here, remember it's backwards, would be 1, 2. From here you could find the focus by doing 4p. 4p is equal to 2, so in this case p is a half. And from here go and do all the rest of the parts of the parabola. So on your homework you will have to do all of these other parts just for review. Let's try another one. Alright, again, the first thing we want to do is identify what type of a conic section it is. So right away I notice x squared and y squared. I also notice that between them there's a subtraction, making this a hyperbola. So first I want my hyperbola graphing formula. Alright, so here was my x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Notice here that we have a perfect square with the x's and a perfect square with the y's. So since there's two perfect squares, sometimes this means that we need to complete the square twice. So I'm going to put my x's together. So I've got 4x squared minus 16x. Then I'm going to put my y's together. So I've got minus y squared minus 4y. And then finally there's this negative 4 that is just kind of in the way. So we are going to add it over to the right side. Alright, before I try to complete the square with the x's, I've got to get rid of this 4 on the left. So I'm going to factor out the 4, and that leaves me with x squared minus 4x. Now I can go ahead and put the box, and we'll complete that in a minute. Then we have this subtraction that's kind of messing things up. In fact, if you want to just put a minus 1 there. And then I have y squared plus 4y. And then I'm going to add a second box, because I've got to complete that square also. Now on the right I still have this equals 4, except now when I add what is my blue box here, I've got the blue box, but I also have a 4 in front of that blue box that came from right here. And in front of my red box I have a minus 1. So I'm going to have to really balance that out. Now I can try to complete the square. So half of negative 4 is negative 2, and then I'm going to square that. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Then look at this. Half of that 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Alright, so let's go ahead and rewrite this now. I've got this 4, I've got an x minus 2 squared minus 1 y plus 2, all of it squared, is equal to, let's see, over here we have 4 plus 16 minus 4, and that's going to give me, those cancel out, just a 16. Alright, now we're almost done, but remember that a hyperbola, we want it to be equal to 1. So at this point I'm going to go through and I'm going to divide everything by 16 so that it's in my correct format. If I simplify this 4 over 16, I get 1/4, so I've got x minus 2, all of it squared, over 4, minus, if I look here, 1 over 16 just stays as 1 over 16, so I've got y plus 2, all of it squared, over 16 is equal to 1. Alright, and then again, on your homework you're going to be asked to identify all the parts of the hyperbola, and just so you can practice doing all of that. Alright. Okay, example 1c. Notice first that there is an x squared and a y squared. In between there is a plus. So now we just have to figure out if this is a circle or if it's an ellipse. Well, the x squared has a 2 in front of it and the y squared has a 1. Those are different coefficients, so this is an ellipse. Alright, so let's jot down our ellipse formula. We've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Oops, it's a minus right there. Equals 1. Now, underneath, remember we have a squared and b squared. I honestly have no clue which is which because until I actually do the problem, remember a squared is always the bigger one, but it doesn't matter because we just want to get it into the correct format. Alright, again, put your x's together. So I've got 2x squared minus 4x. That looked weird. And then I'm going to put together my y's. So I have plus y squared, and there's no y, so I'll just leave it like that. Then I'm going to add this 4 over to the right. Alright, with the x, I want to factor out this 2. So I've got x squared minus 2x plus something, a box. The y squared, actually, this time I don't have to complete the square twice because there is nothing added to this. So remember, that part of the center is just going to be 0, so I don't really have to even mess with that. It's kind of nice. Equals 4. Now, since I had a box on the left, I need to add a box to the right, but remember, there was a 2 in front of that, so I have to keep that 2 out in front of it. Alright, half of negative 2 is negative 1. If I square that, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. I end up with 2x minus 1, all of it squared, plus y squared is equal to, over here, 4 plus 2 is 6. Again, my ellipse formula, I want this to equal 1. So what I'm going to do is divide everything by 6, and I will end up with, make sure you reduce this, 2 over 6, x minus 1 squared over 3. That looks weird. X minus 1 squared over 3, 2 6 becomes 1/3, plus y squared over 6 is equal to 1. Alright, so then of course in this one I did have it backwards. The a squared is right there, but again, doesn't really matter right now. Alright, next, yes, I want you to stop and give it a try. So this is on your notes. If you don't have your notes, copy this down somewhere and try it. Remember, identify what it is, complete the square or squares if you need to, and put it in the general graphing form. Yay, have fun. I'll check it tomorrow.